Be right back. So to be continued, because we had to. I think I'm mic'd. I think I'm mic'd. We had to have a huge conversation.
Good morning, everyone. And good morning if you're joining us online. We'll be getting started in just a moment. I think we'll have Laura sit here. Okay. I'm looking for my partner in crime. Laura, is she somewhere around here? She'll join us. Good morning. Again, it is wonderful to be here with all of you. Thank you so much for your participation this morning. All of the month of November, we are focusing on our priorities of faith, connection, and well-being for all. Underline, bold, capitalize, whatever you want to do, for all. And so we're looking out beyond this building, at our community, at our city, and what it means to be a church in the city. And what it means, last week we talked about, what does community mean for you? What does well-being look like for you? What might it look like for someone else who is living in an entirely different neighborhood, a different part of the city, maybe speaks a different language, maybe they have different issues in their own lives that they are dealing with, age-related or education or whatever it might be. And that's part of what we're bringing to this Sunday as well. We're talking about the holistic approach to helping to create community well-being for all. That we can't, if you heard me at the early service, we can't just pull out one element like housing affordability and try to fix that and think that we've fixed the whole ball of wax, because everything is so integrally connected. And there's so many different parts of it. There's healthcare, there's food insecurity, there's education, there's transportation, and the list could go on. And so today we have a panel to help us look at some different parts of that. And then towards the end, we'll also let you know what's coming up the next 2 weeks. But all of this month, we are doing a food insecurity drive as well. And you'll notice the 2 bins at the back corners of the room. We invite you to give the message to all the people that you know that come here that aren't in the room at the moment. We would love for you to just fill these bins every Sunday with food, staples, non-perishables and no glass containers, but rice, pasta, peanut butter, tomato sauce, canned vegetables, low salt, if possible, all of those kinds of things. And then we will distribute the food that is raised this month. Part of it is going to the emergency pantry Lydia's Pantry over at Galilee Ministries on Central Avenue. And then the rest of it is all going to Nourish Up. And Tina is going to be talking about Nourish Up in just a moment. But we would love to have these bins full each Sunday. So please bring all of them that you can. And we usually just do our diaper drive on the first Sunday of the month, but we also have Avery here from the diaper bank, and we would love to have you bring diaper period insecurity products as well. So just bring all of that with you each Sunday and drop it off. We want to start with acknowledging that tomorrow is Veterans Day. November 11th is Veterans Day. I saw one of our parishioners walking in just a little bit ago in his Marine Corps uniform. We just want to honor and acknowledge any veterans who are present with us or online. If you are a veteran, if you're here, would you stand up? Am I the only one? Yay! All right, thank you. Thank you for your service. We have a lovely prayer in the Eucharist services today for all the men and women who have given of themselves in the military, and we greatly appreciate what that has meant for you in your life. So, we start with introductions. I'm Joan, one of the clergy here. I think most, or if not all of you know that. And I have the distinct privilege and pleasure of working in outreach and mission, meaning I spend most of my, not directly priestly functions, looking at our community partners and working with them. And when I'm doing that, I get to work with this wonderful person right here, and I'm going to let you introduce yourself, and then we'll introduce these folks.
I'm Laura Konitzer. I'm the Director of Outreach and Mission, and my primary role is to connect with our community partners in outreach and be kind of a conduit between our partners in the city and our folks here at Christ Church. And that would be to connect Christ Church parishioners with volunteer opportunities, but also to make the church aware of the challenges in our city and hopefully provide ways to learn about those challenges, provide opportunities for action, and also advocacy. So it is a great privilege to do this work, and I've loved doing it for 7 years.
Great. Immediately to Laura's left is Sil Gonzo, and she is the founder and executive director of Our Bridge for Kids. She moved here from Argentina in 2003, so she's a longtime resident compared to many of us, but we are so grateful to have you here today, Sil. In 2010, she realized that there was a gap in culturally responsive educational and socio-emotional resources for newly arrived families, of which we have many in Charlotte. So she founded Our Bridge, which is a healing, a healing-centered, non-faith-based organization that supports the acculturation, education, and well-being of thousands of immigrants and refugees. They have out-of-school programs, and they provide wraparound services for families, and you'll probably hear that term today, wraparound services, and find out more about it, in families' first languages. So welcome, Sil. We're so glad you're here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm very, very happy to be here and to see many familiar faces too. I'm very glad to be here and to share the stage with these amazing community partners.
Thank you. I didn't get you and Avery a heads up, but what's your favorite part of what you do?
Oh, okay. What's my favorite part? Yesterday, I mean, the events and spending time with people and the kids, I feel like it's one part of my job that I don't get to do as much anymore. When I started, I worked with the kids every single day, like driving and planning and talking to parents. And as Our Bridge started to grow, we grew in our team and we hired amazing people. I don't get to have that, relationship as close anymore. But yesterday we had this amazing event, a health fair, and I got to play and I got to meet people and talk with neighbors, and it's just amazing. That kind of, shows you again why we do the work we do.
That's neat. Thank you so much. Thank you. To Sil's left is Chuck Jones. He is the executive director of Commonwealth Charlotte, and he came to that, about 7 years ago, I guess, after 33 years in business, in advertising and marketing. And he has been a resident of Charlotte since 1987, so he cares deeply about this city and its people and its future. and we welcome you. So thank you. What is your favorite part of working in Commonwealth?
Well, thank you for having me again. My favorite part of working at Commonwealth is that when you work with someone and they see that small incremental changes in their lives can result in large dramatic changes in the future. And there's a light bulb moment that a lot of our clients go through that, hey, I don't have to feel hopeless about finances. I can actually feel hopeful because there's good information out there and there's someone who can help me through that. And when you see that light bulb moment, it's a great thing.
That's cool, thank you. And Chuck also has helped greatly in the establishment of the Rock, Rebuilding Opportunities in Construction, which has been one of our partners for about 6 or 7 years now as well. So
I didn't do much there. All I did there was let Darren go so he could do it.
well, there you go. Sometimes that's the gift. So thank you, thank you. Seated to Chuck's left is Tina Postel, who is the Chief Executive Officer of Nourish Up, which many of us came to know as Loaves and Fishes, but about 1.5 years, 2 years ago.
And Friendship Trays.
And Friendship Trays, thank you, and the merger of those two. Those two became Nourish Up together, and they established this amazing facility on the north side of what I think of as the north side of Charlotte. And we're going to hear more about that as well. But she has more than 25 years in the nonprofit world, leading it and growing it so successfully. In addition to her role as CEO, she is also an adjunct professor at UNCC, where she teaches graduate courses in nonprofit management and fundraising. And she was previously the CEO of the Billings Family YMCA. So welcome, Tina. Thank you. And what is your favorite part? I'm sorry.
Oh, it's all good. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here today, and I'm so proud to be here because Christ Church is such an amazing partner of Nourish Up, formerly known as Loaves and Fishes Friendship Trays. I would say my favorite part of being at Nourish Up is that, honestly, it's as simple as it sounds. Feeding people feels good. I have 3 kids, 2 of whom are away at college, and the first thing I want to do when they get home is I want to feed those children. It feels good to feed people. My mother, growing up, always made us our favorite meal on our birthday. We got to select the meal that she made. And so every day that I show up at Nourish Up, there are 400 families that very evening that are going to be able to break bread with one another, and 500 homebound individuals who are getting their midday meal through our Meals on Wheels program. So you can't have a bad day when you are feeding people.
Oh, I love that. Thank you. Thank you. And to Tina's left is Avery Payne, who is the branch
Greater Charlotte Branch Director. Yeah.
Thank you. I was missing the word director for some reason, but I appreciate that. Many of you know that we had the idea, Marks Arnold actually had the idea after hearing one of our Faith Forum guests of wanting us to provide diaper, period, and incontinent products on a regular basis. But until a few years ago, there was no way that we could do that efficiently and get it out to all the places that they should be distributed. And lo and behold, the North Carolina Diaper Bank came to Charlotte, and Avery became the branch director for that, and he brings his experience of a number of years of nonprofit work and management to it. He is a Charlotte native, so he's coming home again, and we are so grateful that you were here. What is your favorite aspect of the Diaper Bank?
Yeah, well, thank you for having me so much. I really do appreciate it, and we're very appreciative of all the support that Christ Episcopal Church has provided us with the Dignity Drive over 2 years now, I think. You guys have been helping us. You guys have raised over 20,000 items over the past couple of years, so kudos to you guys. I would say my favorite thing about working at the Diaper Bank is, like you said, I'm a native of Charlotte. I grew up in a zip code where there was a concentrated population of low-income immigrant refugee families, and so seeing that growing up benefiting from different nonprofit services. As I grew up, I wanted to dedicate myself to giving back to the community that gave to me, and so Diaper Bank of North Carolina allows for me to do that, and it allows for me to tap into my nerdiness and learn a little bit more about some kind of basic need, and it's been great. Yeah.
Cool. Well, welcome to all of you. We are so glad you are here. And we are not only glad you're here, we are so glad that you are leading the efforts that each of you is leading in this community to help make a difference. So one of the things that we've talked about, and I mentioned a few minutes ago, is the idea of intersectionality, where there are many things that come together in kind of a nexus, that you can't extricate one element of the issues for our most vulnerable neighbors without addressing many other issues. And that's why we have this selection here of people with financial literacy and education and feeding and healthcare in all that they do. And we're not limited to that, but we couldn't fit any more chairs on the stage and still talk. So we just want to bring that to people's mind, that there's this sense of facing things holistically instead of siloing and in trying to address problems individually. The idea of, and I think some of you do this in collaboration with some other organizations, but talk to us about the idea of wraparound services. What might that mean? And whoever wants to speak.
Yeah, thank you. So for us, we partner with organizations to get all of our items out of the door. So Nourish Up is actually our biggest partner organization that we have in the Charlotte area. And for us, what that allows for us to do is it allows for us to connect, like you said, connect resources, right? We know it takes about 90 minutes on average for a family to get to one service, finish, get to the next, and finish that service, right? And so by connecting resources, what we like to say is that it allows for us to give families a little bit more family unit time, which they often have to sacrifice going from one place to the next to get these essential items. And so in partnership with Nourish Up, families are able to get food and diapers, right? With some of our other partner organizations, they're able to get diapers and clothing, or diapers and financial assistance, or we have a partner in Caring CIS Charlotte, with their Safe Journey program, which supports teen moms, trying to help them figure out what their next steps are after leaving school and starting their life, helping them get enrolled in benefits, helping them just a bunch of different things. And so when we partner with organizations, we want to make sure that they're serving populations that are unique, because that's just one more resource that a family's going to have in addition to getting diapers. So.
And CIS is Communities in Schools, which is another partner of ours. We work through them at Rama Road Elementary. So anybody else want to talk about wraparound?
Well, I would add that, again, we're very grateful for the Diaper Bank and that partnership. I'm, not to speak lightly, but I'm very glad that I am only the food lady. Because, there are some big housing issues here in Charlotte. Sorry, it's probably one of my children trying to call me. I'm glad that I'm only the food lady, because there are much bigger problems that people are facing. But with that being said, food and food insecurity, hunger, is merely a symptom of a much larger problem that a lot of the families and individuals that we help are facing. And so we are not looking for repeat customers at our pantries and our grocery home delivery program. We want to give them a hand up instead of a handout, and we want them to not have to return to us. We want them to be able to shop at their local Food Lion, Harris Teeter, Publix, Lidl, Aldi's, you name it. And the way that that happens is through partnership with other organizations. We have social service coordinators on staff when we see people that are repeat customers coming back time and time again and they're having issues. We try and be a baton pass and get them connected to other services, whether it be housing partners, whether it be government programs, whether it be help at CMS schools, whether it be healthcare in need. We partner with over 400 partner agencies, and sometimes it's just as simple as that social services coordinator making the appointment for them to go over to crisis assistance ministry to get rent and utility assistance. So that baton pass is the make or break sometimes. people don't just need a sheet, you know, of, oh, well, here, you could call all, you know, these 50 different organizations. They need that instant connection, that appointment, getting them over to our bridge or Commonwealth or any of these other amazing partners that we work with.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. I can't agree more. We work in financial instability, and so financial instability ends up being very much a foundational piece of what everyone's going through in every organization that we partner with. We have about 80 partners that we work with, and you know, we are working not only to help someone out of an immediate situation, but to try to improve their financial capability over time. And that ends up impacting their housing, their food supplies, their their child care, everything. The financial foundation it touches all of it. And so when we are working with someone, we are trying to address all of those needs, but really from the standpoint of trying to do it and trying to have their personal finance more stable. And we're working with folks from all different angles. I mean, people who are coming from recovery programs, from justice involvement, from temporary homelessness, but all of that. I have a line that I say, all of our clients are exactly the same, except for the fact that they're completely different. And so we're making it up as we go with some knowledge along the way.
In our case, I mean, these three amazing partners are part of this network of services that we're able to provide, because we realized that not one organization can do it all, right? And I feel like when I started in nonprofit about 14 years ago, there was this feeling like, there's a little bit of money out there, we all have to fight for it, and don't share donor names. And I feel like now, I don't know if you guys are feeling the same, but there's this effort and this just intentionality of just acknowledging, okay, we focus on this, we do it well. You focus on this, you do it well. How do we create that network so people can access it? In our case, with Outreach, we focus on families that are newly arrived. We work with, I think last year it was about 400 families. About 60% of them spoke Spanish. The other 40 spoke another 17 languages. And I think that we were able to figure it out how to create a team at our bridge that can relate to the families and speak in their first language. And I think that's how we're able to help families. It doesn't matter where they're coming from, what language they speak, to actually access all of the amazing services out there. And it's incredible to see how much more accessible services are now that Charlotte's demographic are changing. So that, to me, as an immigrant, is incredible, and I'm thankful for that. What we do very specifically, I mean, we share spaces with our organizations. We currently have 3 offices, 2 on the east side of Charlotte and 1 on the southwest area of Charlotte. And we have decided that we're not gonna have one space just for our bridge. We have to share the space with other organizations. So like what Avery said, I mean, people don't have to go from place to place to place, but to find as many resources as possible in the same space. So yeah.
Tell us about the Charlotte is Home Center.
Okay.
That is so exciting, and to this point is exactly sharing space, being a center for several services all in one place, and it's so exciting.
It's so exciting. So this building is called the Charlotte is Home Center, and it really came out of an idea that COVID pushed us to think about. So during COVID, of course, people were struggling to find resources throughout the city, and especially for immigrant and refugee families. Culturally responsive healthcare was one of them, and pro bono legal representation for people that were being targeted by ICE was another situation, and of course the wraparound support. So we currently are located on the Aldersgate campus. Are you familiar with Aldersgate on the east side? Aldersgate, they're amazing. We have had a community center there since 2017, but when COVID happened, I reached out to them and said, hey, if you have another building just empty that you don't need and you want to rent it to us, that'd be great. Because I really wanted to bring those 3 services into one place. And how do you say it? Long and behold?
Lo and
Lo and
behold.
behold.
Yes, they were like, well, we have this building. Do you want it for $1 a year? And we were like, well, that will be great. And yeah, that was 3.5 years ago. We worked with Carolina Migrant Network and the Charlotte Community Health Clinic for 3 years, working together to fundraise and remodel this beautiful building that we just opened about 8 weeks ago. So the idea is for people from all over the world to be able to get healthcare services, see a lawyer if they need to, and receive all the the wraparound services on the same space. So if you're all welcome to come see it, and yeah, we're very proud of it.
It's an amazing place.
Yes, it's beautiful.
I will say, as one of those funding resources, as a partner in funding, and I don't want to speak for the whole commission or for, but it has really been, you all working together has allowed us as a commission, as we are stewards of the generosity of Christ Church, to be intentional as we think about annually where our grant funding is going to go, because we feel like the funds are going further when we know that as partners, you all are working together to serve the community. And there's a very thoughtful group of people that serve on the Outreach Commission, and they don't take the grant funding process lightly. And it really is, it's really beautiful to watch how intentional I think they are, and it helps. They read through these documents, and it helps to see that we know that these folks are being served by by you all working together, instead of organizations that are kind of hoarding, to one, like, I'm going to serve this group and you're going to serve, and then working in silos. And it's been a really wonderful process and evolution, I think, in the last few years, as we've seen this happening more and more, the work, and less silos, I guess, in Charlotte.
One thing I would add to that, I would say about that, is that there is, in our individual lives, if you think about your individual life, there are so many components of that, and you manage all those components, but you don't manage them alone. And so when you're working with someone who is underserved, they have all those same components, but yet don't always have the resources to do that. So if you try to be the one-stop shop, you're going to fail. But if you say, hey, there's a food insecurity here, well, we can work with Nourish Up. There's these things. That's the only way I know how to do it. Mm-hmm. I don't know how to do it any other way, because it's too large if you don't do it that way. So thank you for that.
I think Laura and I have both been getting this sense over the last 5 years or so of just how much this city is moving from a sense of competition almost between the hundreds of nonprofits that are here to one of collaboration. And it's just so amazing and rewarding to see that happen. And I just have to think it's so much more fruitful for our neighbors in need for that. How about you talk about storytelling? And
well, we know that stories are what connect us as a community, and I think we need to be telling more stories. We've heard a lot recently that we have a lot more in common than we do, than we don't. And it's not until we realize that we're all part of this big puzzle and we're all a piece of it that but we need to hear each other's stories. And it's not until we get out of our bubble and out of our individual communities and into other communities that we can hear. So I'd be curious to hear some stories about the people that you serve. What would you want us to know about the communities that you serve?
or particular individuals.
What would you want us to know at 1412 Providence about folks, the people you serve?
Well, I can start. One of my main jobs, in addition to feeding the masses, is to fight the stereotypes of who's hungry in our community, and that seems to be a constant battle. Even, my son used to tell his friends, they'd be like, "What does your mom do for a living?" And he would say, "Oh, she feeds the homeless." And I pulled him aside one day and I'm like, "Seth, you know that that's not what I do, right?" And he goes, "Yeah, Mom, I know. It's just easier to explain it that way." Because oftentimes, when we think about a hungry person, we might think about a homeless individual. And there certainly are people who are houseless that are struggling with food insecurity. But I will tell you, the vast majority of who we serve at Nourish Up are not houseless individuals. Many of them are seniors on fixed incomes, families, many of whom are gainfully employed. They are just struggling to make ends meet. Half of whom we serve are children and seniors. And so we fight a lot of those stereotypes. It is not the panhandler that you might see on the side of the road holding the sign that says, "We'll work for food." There are people that looked just like all of us here in this room. When we looked at merging loaves and fishes with friendship trays, I actually wasn't doing that with the intention of merging. I was trying to rip off and duplicate friendship trays Meals on Wheels delivery model because I knew we needed to deliver groceries to people who couldn't make it to one of our pantry locations. And so one of my favorite stories, even though it's heart-wrenching, is that I was delivering a meal to a homebound individual, and I had 3 small children run to the door, and they were so excited that the friendship tray lady was here. The friendship tray lady's here. And so I gave these 3 small children this meal for their grandmother, and I felt kind of like queen of the world because I had 3 teenagers at home that don't greet me like that when I show up at the door. And so I gave them grandma's meal and I walked back to my car and I was feeling pretty proud of myself. And then I burst into tears because at that moment I knew that those children weren't excited to see me. They were excited that I brought a meal that their grandmother was probably going to share with them. And I knew at that moment that I also had a warehouse full of milk and apples and oranges and all sorts of other food that I could have brought for this family in need, and that this grandmother didn't need to just share her meal. We produce enough food in the United States to feed absolutely everybody. You mentioned that it's Veterans Day tomorrow. Do you know that out of all the people that we served last year, we served 4,200 veterans? You don't think about veterans as being hungry, but 4,200 of them here in the Charlotte community leaned on our organization to be able to put food around their table just last year. So that's the faces of hunger that we see at Nourish Up.
And for us too, we know that it's about 76% of the families that we work with on any given day are working 1 to 3 jobs and still cannot afford our items, right? There's a large misunderstanding about what poverty looks like in our community. A lot of people think that because you can't afford something, that you're not working hard enough or care enough or whatever it is. In my role, we actually are able to collect optional outcome surveys from families with the help of our partners, where we're able to see not only the impact that our work is having on the community, but we're also able to see is how hardworking families are. Like I said, sometimes working 3 jobs. How dedicated families are trying to make sure that their kids are healthy and happy, and how resilient a family has to be trying to get access to something they should have been given access to in the first place. And so for me, we don't necessarily interact with families on a day-to-day basis because we work through other organizations to provide our items, but I do receive emails, phone calls from families or individuals looking to learn more about where they can get the items that we provide. And a couple months ago, I actually got a call from a mom who her and her 2 sons had left from the northern region of the country to escape a domestic violence situation, and she was just trying to figure out where to start, right? And we were just talking about resource hubs or connecting resources. And so not only was I able to help her get more information about where she could get diapers and period products, I was also able to help her get connected with food resources, right? Or connect with crisis assistance for figuring out where do I start now that I'm here in Charlotte, connecting her with the Center for Hope with Salvation Army. And I wouldn't have been able to do that if, like we said, we weren't in this era of connecting resources, right? Being from here, that was something that a lot of people that I knew growing up struggled with, right? They, maybe they needed just a couple of meals to get by till the next paycheck so that they can do the things that they need to do, but they also needed, I don't know, rent assistance, right? But they couldn't figure out how to prioritize their time in a way to say, oh, I need to be able to eat, but I also need to be able to pay my rent in the next couple of days. That's a really difficult decision to have to make, right? And so luckily enough, we're in this era able to provide those connected resources and things like that. So that's a story that holds really near and close to my heart, especially knowing how many families that are doing everything that they are told they should need to do in order to afford something or have access to something, but are just moments in time or for long periods of time having to make really difficult decisions, sometimes missing a meal to get a day's worth of diapers so they can take their kids to daycare, because if you don't have a day's worth of diapers, most daycares you can't take your kids. If you can't take your kids to daycare, you may miss a day of work. You can't miss a day of work. You may lose your job, et cetera, et cetera. So in the cycle of basic necessities, we see families making those difficult decisions. And so I hold on to moments, especially not interacting with families very often through the work that we do. I hold on to moments like that because it shows me that at least in some way, shape, or form, we're putting seeds out there. And so I know you guys know the importance of seeds.
So I'll read you a 3-paragraph note. Dear Mr. Minot and Ms. Hardison, 2 of our staff members, thank you sincerely for accepting me into the Generation 2080 program, one of our wealth building initiatives. For years, any extra money I had, I put toward paying off my home's mortgage early. Having succeeded, I have been confused about what to do next. So many people tell me to invest in cryptocurrency. Well, I am risk averse in the best of times. Plus, I do not think I should put my savings into something I do not understand. So I have just been stashing my meager savings in an envelope in my drawer. I am so very happy to now have the Generation 2080 program to learn where I might better invest my savings. God bless you for having this program. Sincerely, in the name.
Wow.
I won't say anything else.
Thank you.
I want to say that Commonwealth also, they partner with some of our community partners like BraveWorks and Charlotte Family Housing, and I could name others that are working with family. Charlotte Family Housing works with families that are trying to become more financially independent, and so rather than try to bring in their own financial experts, they've partnered with Commonwealth, and BraveWorks has done the same. So you have someone here that's a homeowner that's trying to figure out what to do with their wealth or to gain wealth, or you have someone that's trying to build financial security. So all different ends of the spectrum. So really great work you're doing there. So what did
It's immigrants. There's so many stories that I could share of families and kids that I have met, but I think that in general, what I would love everybody to know is like everybody's here for a better future, and I promise you, everyone will do the same. If you were in the same situation, when your loved ones, when yourself, when your home is in danger, you will also try to flee and give your family a new future, a better future, whatever it takes. And that's what we see in our families. They left everything behind. They're on their own. I had the privilege to come here when I was younger in a different circumstance, but I did come here on my own. I spoke English, I didn't have kids. It was the worst. It's hard. It's hard. It's like half of your heart is somewhere else, and you have to keep pushing forward, and you have to be strong for your children, and you try to give your kids the best that you can with what you have. And the kids, they're kids, and they laugh, and they play, and they make messes in the after school, and they have no idea of how hard their parents are working for them to actually achieve the best that they can. In this country, you can, if they let you. When I saw Laura this morning, we both started crying. What's going to happen? I just ask all of you for your support in the years that are coming. I ask you for your advocacy. I ask you to speak up. We have seen what happened 4 years ago, the family separations at the border. We have seen kids in cages. Those are not stories. And we can see it again. And we cannot do it alone. There are a few very, very well-organized immigrant organizations in Charlotte, but we can't do it alone. And we appreciate the spaces like this that we can actually say, it's hard. It's terror on the streets. We have had families and moms calling us from the closet because ICE was at the door and the kids were crying. And we were telling them, do not open. We're right there. So I need you to be strong, and I need you to be brave, and I need you to speak up, and I need you to yell, and I need you to be on the streets, because if you are the ones who have the power, and you know this. This is no secret, right? I'm not speaking something that it's unspoken of. You guys can do something way more than we can. We can yell and scream, but our people can vote. And don't get me started, but but it's just like it will take all of us to change the curse of how we are seen, and I feel like it's important for everybody to keep talking about this, especially now. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
That felt better.
One of the things that all of you have addressed without actually using these same words is something that's integral to our expression of faith as Episcopalians, and that's our baptismal covenant. Every time we baptize a child, and we do that by the droves around here, every time we baptize someone, a child or adult or whoever, we renew our own baptismal covenant, and we vow to seek and serve Christ in all persons and respect the dignity of every human being. That's part of why we call it the Dignity Drive when we ask for the products that end up at the diaper bank. But all four of you have so clearly and beautifully talked about recognizing the Christ in another, regardless of who they are, what they look like, what they do, how they sound, what they believe, and respecting that dignity that is inherent in each human being. So thank you so much for the many ways that you live into that, and I'm proud that we can help support that in different ways. I think that also plays into, many of you are aware that the Chetty report had an update several months ago, a year ago, I'm not quite sure how long ago that was. And whereas in 2015, Charlotte was ranked 50 out of 50 in upward mobility among the 50 largest cities in this country, thousands of people moved into action to try to change that because it shocked some of the leadership in this city and county. And the results of that over the last 9 years is that we are now number 38 out of 50. But that is not reason to sit on our laurels and say, oh, what a good job we've done. We need to keep moving from there, continue the things that we're doing, and maybe branch out into some other things. So leading into that, what do you foresee, in coming? How do we need to grow, or what do we need to keep on doing in order for us to keep making progress, make it more possible for somebody in that lowest quintile, that lowest 20% economically, to be able to move out of that? Broad question.
Wow, that's a big question. The first thing that I would say is, and many of you, I'm preaching to the choir, is get out of your bubbles. I mean, I think what makes us great is being a melting pot. And the coolest thing that I get to see I mean, we have 41 different pantry locations all throughout Mecklenburg County, and I don't run a single one of them. They're all run by volunteers. And so we have volunteers, people who are not without, that are operating our pantries. They are interacting. Many of our pantries are client choice pantries where where a client in need gets to come in and shop for the food that they want, for the food that their kids like, for the food that is culturally relevant, for the food that meets their medical needs. And when a volunteer, somebody of affluence who is not in need, gets to shop alongside somebody who is, and you know what? You know what they talk about? They talk about recipes. They talk about their children or their grandchildren. And there might be in polar opposite situations, but they leave hugging one another. And they see the humanness in one another. And so stay connected. If you're not currently connected with people who look different than you, act different than you, man, do I have a volunteer opportunity for you at Nourish Up. Come deliver a Meals on Wheels route. Come deliver groceries to someone's doorstep. Come work in one of our pantries. Don't just rely on me or a forum like this to hear stories. Be part of somebody's story. Reach out to your fellow neighbor in need. Feeding people feels good. There's a huge emotional paycheck that you will get by being involved with my organization or any of these incredible organizations. So thank you for coming here and sitting in a chair today and listening to us. But man, be part of the miracle of connectedness. We have a great community, so stay involved.
Shameless plug here. We have got a long time Friendship Trays ministry at Christ Church, a route that has been served for, long before I was here. And if you want to be a part of that, you can reach out to me and we can hook you up. It's good stuff. And it's always a good day when we go and volunteer at Nourish Up. Also, if you want to see something spectacular, go out and visit their new Hunger Hub. It is fantastic. Finally, but Galilee has one of the client choice pantries, and it is a really neat place to be too. Lots of parishioners volunteer over there, so lots of ways to serve.
Yeah, so for me, and this is the third time I said it, as a native, something that you see growing up, and I went to inner city schools. I grew up 10 minutes from downtown in a 1950s suburb, something that you often see is, despite changes in different statistics and things like that, you often will see families still struggling with the same issues. And for us, we've seen that. We have been doing this work across the state for over a decade. And what we've seen in the past 4 years is a 2,000% increase in requests for our supplies. In the Charlotte area, we distributed about 400,000 diapers last year. It was 4% of the need that we saw in Mecklenburg County. Wow. When it comes to the economic mobility that we see families, that number that I was telling you earlier, the 76% of families working 1 to 3 jobs, that number is actually still going up. And so being a part of that solution, like Tina was saying, is coming out and supporting, or just talking about the work that we do. When we have volunteers, if you're interested in volunteering, it's a good time. We wrap our items and then get them ready to be distributed out into the community. I like to have it nice and fun with music and
Good
everything.
music.
It is
If you're
Always
interested.
good
great
music
fun.
at both places, actually.
Yeah.
Both places.
But yeah, come out and when I have volunteers, oftentimes I'll tell them when they leave for the session, tell at least one person about the work that we do. Right? That one person could tell 10, that 10 could tell 100, that's 100 could tell 1,000. That's that many more people that know about the support that we provide, and it's that many more people that would be able to support the families in the community. And so if you don't remember anything that I say, I definitely would love for you to remember the fact that, just like Tina said, go out there, have these conversations, go learn about a service in the community, take ownership of your ability to support others in the community. That, for me, that's why I got into this work, right? I got into this work because I saw how support provided by the community was impacting me and the people that I knew, and I wanted to get involved in that. I wanted to be somewhat of a silent hand trying to get people these basic needs, these essential hygiene items for us more specifically. And so it doesn't mean that you have to go into a career of nonprofit. If I'd always advocate for you doing that, if that's something you're interested in. But being a part of it in some way can be just giving to the dignity drive that you guys do. It can be having a conversation. It can be coming out to volunteering, or just having those difficult conversations sometimes with people that you know that may have that misconception that I spoke about earlier around poverty, and challenge it. I think that us holding each other accountable is the best way for us to kind of grow and continue on. And so, yeah, that's what I have to say.
So, thanks for that. I love that. I'm not a native like Avery, but I like to tell people I moved to Charlotte back in the 1900s. And as you said earlier, I ran a business for many years here. And I will tell you something when I did that I hated, okay? I hated the phrase, the system stacked. I really did not like that phrase because I didn't believe it. Having worked in this work for a few years and work, I still don't like the phrase, but there's a lot of the system that's stacked. It's tough for people. It's tough for people, as you've said, working 2 or 3 jobs, getting by. There's approximately 240,000 people in Charlotte who work full-time or full-time equivalent, meaning 2 jobs or more, that make 30 to 50% of the area median income. Now, that's a lot of stuff, but that means that they're getting by or trying to survive on $2,400 take home a month. Just let that sink in for a minute. That's tough. And while we haven't gotten better, one thing, and just one quick thing that happens is gentrification of homes. 2 miles from here are some of the most affordable homes for people who are working in that group that are anywhere. But as soon as a lot is leveled and a big house is put there, then the house next to it, the property value goes up, the taxes go up, the fixed income. It's a system, and I'm not against the system. I'm a benefit of the system. But I would say the same thing. I would say that because you are here, I believe that you have a different view of this than the larger population. But be aware of that. Just continue the awareness of that, because we've gone from 50 to 38th, which is great progress. But if we had started at 38th 8 years ago, we would have gone 38th. We got to be 24th. So it's a relative thing. I'm happy with the work that has been done by this community, but there's still a lot to be done. and just continue the awareness of everything that is still there.
Thank you.
The work that Leading an Opportunity has been doing since 2017 has been incredible. You're familiar with Leading an Opportunity. They took on the Cherry study and created a report, and they went down into, okay, so why are we 50th out of 50th? And they came out with, a bunch of tenants that I will not pretend that I remember, but there are several tenants that, guide how a city does and how a community does as far as upward mobility. And something that I'm very, very glad that they are doing is like they're stopped trying to get us to number one. Instead, they're trying to support organizations like ours, understanding how the work we do aligns to what the report shows that we need to do to move that needle forward. And that's something that I am really, really excited about. They are working with this, it's called an opportunity compass, where organizations can analyze the work we do and figure out, okay, in which tenants are you working more in, and what impact are you doing towards, those goals. So I think, now that I think about it, it just kind of correlates with the same time that we're talking about when organizations started working together instead of competing with each other. So now I'm gonna call them and say, hey, you're doing way more than you think, because we are actually looking into how what you're doing complements what we're doing and how can we work better with each other. So I'm hopeful. There's a lot of work to be done, but I think that the data and the resources that Leading Opportunity is providing organizations to actually do the work is really, really impactful.
Great. Thank you so much. Before we wrap up, I just want to mention there's a table on either side of the sound booth back there that has some literature and contact information for these 4 amazing people and their organizations. So I invite you to stop back there, have a conversation with these folks, and go out. Go out of your normal travel circles in this city and get involved and get engaged with some of the amazing things that are going on. Before I finish thanking them, next week we have another panel discussion. Parishioner Doug I is leading the conversation next week, and it's on a very new and important way of looking at housing affordability. Erskine Bowles, Nelson Schwab, Mark Etheridge, and Adelaide Martin, all from the Housing Impact Fund, will be here to talk about what they're doing that is gaining national attention. Through them, we have used some of our Transforming Hearts money to be able to afford a community health worker, which is really a person providing wraparound services at one of their projects here in town. They have 9 communities that they have started, and we'll hear about one of them. We'll hear about all of them, and the one we're helping with in particular. But come back for that. On the 24th, the Sunday before Thanksgiving, we will indeed be sitting here in gratitude with members of folks here, parishioners here, who have been part of Becoming Beloved Community, and also some people from St. Michael's Episcopal Church, a historically African-American congregation, and the friendship and the relationships that have developed in the last 3.5 years over that. So come back the next 2 weeks, bring your food for the bins that are back there, and please help me thank these amazing people. We are so proud and so happy to be able to partner with you, and whatever way that we can help move the needle forward is something we want to do. Laura, do you want to add anything?
Just grateful for the relationship, and we'll just keep working, rolling our sleeves up.
Great. Thank you. And thank you to all of you who are here and who are perhaps joining us online, and all of you who roll your sleeves up in this community. We got work to do. Thank you.